We did creak physically against them. Alan Quinlan is here. Alan, pure systems failure from some key players. And yet it seems like even if those key players were playing well, England were going to smash us because they have our number now.
They have, yeah. And I think most teams would have struggled with the intensity that England brought yesterday. I think the worrying thing from the Irish point of view is obviously mistakes will happen and your game plan will break down at times, but Ireland just lacked energy from the word go, and they were on the back foot, soaking up tackles. And England were good, to be fair, very good the way they held on to the ball, and they were really, really aggressive. We just couldn't get the ball back off them. Lineouts we won, we were getting smashed. It was messy coming back to the halfbacks. Their defensive line was really, really quick, and they numbered up really well. So they didn't hover in around the breakdown. They actually numbered out, and just their aggression off the line. So the template was there because they did it in Dublin last year. They did it in the World Cup warm-up game. And
can anybody beat us with that template now? Because we haven't played well against a team.
You're dealing with a team that's very, very powerful, you know, and Itoje is 115 or 16 kilos. He's probably as powerful as a 125 kilo player. Cruz is 125 kilos, and they did untold damage. Underhill is not the biggest player, but unbelievably powerful. He smashed loads of fellas around the fringes. Curry did as well. Laws, big number 6. I thought the balance in their back row was poor.
Yeah,
I thought it was risky. Well, I thought just the balance of that back row, given what we saw against France. But France probably coped with England in the physical sense. France are a big side as well, and but England just changed gears yesterday. They got to another level, and they looked like they hate the Irish players. They were niggling them all the time, and they really unsettled them, and we couldn't cope with that. And that's more angrier than not. That makes me more angry. I don't want to be too pessimistic.
Well, come on, we have to be.
Okay.
So when are we ever going to beat this England team again, and how are we going to beat them?
That's a good question. You need to figure out, because people obviously they talk about if you talk too much about physicality and power, you think, well, there's so many more aspects to the game. But the reality is, in rugby, if you lose those collisions, England had 32 impact tackles, dominant impact tackles, so they're knocking Ireland backwards. So it's very hard to reset off those breakdowns. And a lot of the time, Ireland were trying to play, and they were trying to play off slow ball, it's just the opposition lapped it up. It's brilliant if you're a defender in that situation. Somebody smashes someone backwards. Ball is a bit of a mess coming back. You're just going forward and forward all the time, and we couldn't cope with that. So many aspects of their game were really good, and so many aspects of our game were really bad. Our kicking game was really poor. They actually didn't run that much with the ball, England. They kicked so intelligently. But we're an area a couple of years ago where it was just brilliant for us was the aerial battles. We're losing an awful lot of aerial battles now. And I've said it before, bad kicks can become good kicks with a really aggressive, determined chase. And we don't have that determined chase. We don't have even our kick retreat, when the opposition kicked us, our enthusiasm to get back around the ball is slow. We're not blocking anyone off. And, you know, look, to be fair, George Ford, he had it on a plate, really. And when he gets the ball with that much time and space, he can be world class. And just so many aspects to the game, which was really concerning, because they've spoken themselves about, you know, the prep and the feel-good factor and the confidence they would have taken after Wales. But we look shell-shocked, and that's the reality. If people can say it and they like, we were shell-shocked, and we were lacking kind of leadership and someone to take ownership, make a big tackle, make a big carry. I really thought maybe we could turn it after about 20 minutes, but I think Bundyaki, or 25 minutes, Bundyaki got a penalty for a turnover. And we were, to be fair, soaking up so much pressure. Ireland only missed 10 tackles in the game, which is quite a low tackle count. So to be fair to the players, they were trying to move around the field, but it was just all at one pace. You know, they showed a lot of character, but it has to be more than that. You know, our attacking game was sluggish.
I think this is like a really chastening event for Irish rugby, to the point where this feels like we are so far behind that England team. we knew exactly what the challenge was going to be. Eddie Jones has, from the start of this tournament, laid out that we're going to present a physical challenge for absolutely everybody. They did to us this year exactly what they did to us last year. Only last year they had the Vinapolas in the team, so they were actually a better team last year. This was our opportunity to go up against a team without the Vinapolas, and we had nothing to offer, nothing from an attacking perspective, and our defence was like chaotic at best.
And we allowed them to niggle us all the time and just get in our faces. We couldn't get our maul going. We couldn't get over the gain line. And it's so difficult to try and play off that. Otherwise, you just drop your 10 back in the pocket and he just kicks the leather off the ball. And maybe we should have done that. We're actually trying to play off slow ball. And there was a period there before half-time when I think Rob Herring knocked on the ball, Bundy Aki knocked on the ball. But there was a wall of English players in front of him each time. And you're getting smashed right on the gain line. And we looked out of ideas, and genuinely it's obviously easier when you're standing back, and even if you watch the game back, to say we should have kicked here and we should have kicked then, but we actually should have kicked the ball a little bit more. We only kicked it 17 times yesterday, and you could probably say 7 or 8 of those kicks were really poor kicks. There was a couple of crossfield kicks from Johnny Sexton when penalties were coming.
Why do we do that, by the way? When England get a penalty advantage, they continue to play. They don't.
Well, a lot of teams do kick after that, and it is something that frustrates me when I watch it. Just try and keep
Hail Mary
playing.
Hollywood.
Yeah, unless you suck in loads of the defenders and there's actually a mismatch out in the wing, or even a 2-on-1. But yeah, we've done that a good few times, and just critical moments. We lost.
Aren't you better off rolling up the penalty and keep them going? Because the next time they commit a penalty, you're more likely to get a yellow card.
Most oppositions now do, if there's a penalty given against them, and the penalty advantage, they'll give away another one, particularly in the 22.
Yeah.
And maybe give away 2 or 3 because they.
That's the bit where you get in the referee's ear and go, yellow card here, I'll take the yellow card.
And but overall, it was just a very disappointing performance. It was the manner of the defeat. You know,
because you can't see a fix, can you? You can't say, let's just change the halfback partnership and the winger, and all of a sudden we're going to be.
It's very easy to say, well, just make changes and bring John Cooney in and bring Will Addison in, bring Chris Farrell in, whoever. There will be some changes. I think Ronan Kelleher, Quinlan, they're 2 new players, made their debuts a few weeks ago. They are going to be involved with this Irish team for a long time. So, on the back of what happened in 2019, is why this is kind of alarming. You know, if Ireland had a decent enough 19, even if they went out in the quarterfinals, but we had such a bad year, made some progress against Scotland and Wales, and we're after taking a step back. You know, I don't want to be too hard on them because I know what it's like to be a player out there when you just hit a brick wall, but I just think most of the players were in 2nd, 3rd gear yesterday. England were in 4th, 5th. And England, if they were more clinical, could have scored more points. People said to me after the game, well, it was the 2 kicks and we were unlucky, bounced the ball.
No, that's nonsense.
You could argue that, and I've played in matches, Ger, where you've been under the pump for ages and ages and ages, half a match, and you actually do get the break with you, and you actually hang on for dear life, and you can turn it around the second half. But I just felt, and most people would have felt yesterday, that even if those couple of bounces of the ball didn't go England's way, that they would have found another way. They were just on top. Now, credit to Ireland, they defended really well. They didn't allow England get loads of line breaks, but we were just soaking up so much pressure. And you just, against England, you can't do that.
It's a fairly shattering conclusion to the honeymoon period for Andy Farrell. There was talks about the Monday morning video sessions having been fairly pleasant over the last few weeks.
Fun, I believe.
Fun. That needs to be different this morning, doesn't it? It needs to be Joe Schmidt style.
Look, to be honest, Andy Farrell, I've huge admiration for him because he came out in the press yesterday and he fronted up pretty much straight away, and he's a very inspirational guy, and he probably needs to change tact a little bit. He's been trying to get their confidence back and get them feeling good about themselves again, and having it a little bit more relaxed. And he needs to really look at this now and change tact a little bit and call a few home truths here with the players. Some players should be dropped, and it's not the worst thing in the world. Just because a player is dropped doesn't mean that they're gone for good. I think some guys need to rebuild themselves, and it isn't the worst thing that could happen to them. But to be fair, Farrell, he did front up, and I admire him for that, and he's always been an honest player. and I think he's a very popular guy and he's an inspirational guy. But he needs to figure out now, this is a rebuilding process, and that's just the reality. It doesn't mean that people are gone for good, but I think we need to try and freshen things up. And, you know, even if you were to lose matches with younger players coming through, maybe it is the best thing that can happen now, because...
They're not going to do that before November, because the draw for the next World Cup is going to be made then.
I've always said this, Joe, you've got to win international matches. It's important to generate some money, seedings, all that kind of stuff. But I think there is a way to bring in, not to make 10 changes in the team. Scotland made 10 changes, remember, after the team that lost at the World Cup to us in Yokohama. They made 10 changes to that first game. That's a lot of changes in a starting team. We've made a couple of changes.
How much worse would it have been if we'd made 10 changes, though? Yeah. Like, what's the benefit of having a bunch of players who are in the autumn of their career being pummeled by England versus a bunch of younger players who are playing without fear and without inhibition?
There's for and against. You can damage guys even more, I think. I think some of the senior players who've been involved in the team for a number of years now have their performances haven't been good enough, and they've been selected on reputation. But to be fair, everybody played pretty well against Wales, didn't they? So, you know, I think I wouldn't have went into this game and said make wholesale changes just for the sake of it. I think, but now it needs to be looked at. Maybe not. I know there will be changes anyway for Italy, and maybe some players, the experience will still play against France. But I think maybe after the Six Nations, it needs to seriously be looked at, and I'm sure they will. You know, they go to Australia, and then they've November internationals, and it is time that some younger players actually get the opportunity, because...
who are we talking about? Who can come into this team? And so Quinlan Doris, I think you've got to find a way to get him in the team.
Quinlan Doris, I think, and actually our back row, Standard O'Mahony played decent yesterday, I think. James Ryan. They're probably only the three forwards who could say that they acquitted themselves over the 80 minutes pretty well.
Tyke Furlong was disappointing.
He was disappointing. Rob Herring was disappointing. Cian Healy smashed Joe Marler early on, and Underhill, in fairness to him, he went off with the injury. Yeah. Josh van der Fleer didn't have the impact that you would hope from your seven. So I think Caelan Doris, Ronan Kelleher, Henderson will obviously come back in. That's going to be 3 changes. Max Deegan is someone for the future as well. I don't know how you
get them in the team now or not. I don't know.
I'm not really sure. I think Doris and Deegan could and should possibly be given an opportunity against Italy.
Let's talk 9 and 10, because they didn't have a good game. Sexton, I don't remember a worse game that Sexton's played for Ireland, from the kicking tee and also the handling mistake, but also his kicking from out of hand wasn't good.
Yeah, he looked... he just didn't look right in himself. I think England really did unsettle him. They put massive pressure on him and Conor Murray, but aside from pressure and England being in their faces for our halfbacks, they both made uncharacteristic errors. Poor kicks, poor decision making, and poor execution from 2 players who've, I think it's 170 caps between them.
So what do you do?
Well, I think Cooney deserves a shot to start against Italy, and I think it's hard coming off the bench to... And it's always easier for players to come off the bench when the game is gone, because things are going to change a little bit, and in fairness, some of the guys that came off the bench looked better than obviously the players who played in the previous 60 minutes. But that's part and parcel of the game being gone. But I think they deserve an opportunity to start the game. So John Cooney does deserve an opportunity, and as I said, Kelleher should start.
Let's talk about Cooney, right?
Doris
so who does Cooney partner at 10? Do you play Sexton, and in that scenario for you, if Cooney's playing, does he take over the kicking duties now that Sexton is having issues? Owen said in the aftermath of the game, he told Sinead Castan that he was kicking the ball in the wrong place. If you've diagnosed the issue, when you fix it, you can come back and kick again. But until you've proven you fixed it in competition, which you can do for Leinster, then Cooney has to kick, right?
I don't know, to be honest. It's Johnny Sexton's your captain, so he's made him captain, and does he drop him off the team?
Pick him at 10, but let Cooney kick.
yeah, Johnny Sexton's kicked a lot of good penalties over the years.
He has, but
Saturday was wrong for
everybody
him.
has.
Yeah, for sure. I understand where you're coming from. I don't know what the answer to that is, Ger, to be honest. It's probably so. I think you need to analyse it a bit more in the next week or two. But I think you play Ross Byrne. Is Ross Byrne going to start against France?
No, he's not.
So
that's
where the argument is, you know. And if Joey Carberry was fit, Carberry could start maybe against Italy, and he might have a brilliant performance and actually put Johnny Sexton under pressure to start against France. But that's where the issue is. There's some positions that the players behind are not at the same level. But the argument then is, well, do you say, well, forget about the results now and let's make these players and bring new players through? But I think the captain will start against Italy, I think.
I actually would start him in both games. Like, I think that he's mentally strong enough to recover from his worst game, but I would take the pressure of kicking away from him. And like, we've heard that conversation that O'Gara was talking about. Sometimes O'Connell would tell him, you're kicking this, and he didn't want to kick it.
Yeah.
Like, the captain makes that decision. All of a sudden, Sexton's in his own head going, am I kicking this as a captain? Am I kicking this as a kicker? I'm not feeling that confident. I'm going to take it anyway. Like, remove all that. Captain tells kicker, kick it.
Yeah,
like,
for sure. That's. But it's up to, you know, you can't go up and disrespect the captain and say
No, Andy Farrell
maybe it's the coach that says you take the kicks, Cooney, because his percentage kicking is incredibly high anyway.
That's the reason to do it.
It doesn't really matter as long as they go over the bar.
It would help him to get into the game as well.
Yeah, for sure.
That's my take.
I'm not sure about that. I just don't see the idea of having Sexton on the pitch without his goal kicking, without getting the bonus of getting Ross Byrne international test minutes. So I think Ross Byrne has to start against Italy. I think that if you're going to make changes and Sexton is not being trusted to kick the ball as a 10.
It's not that he's not being trusted. You've got a more informed kicker on the pitch.
But to be fair, a lot of the time he's bruised and battered. He's getting smashed. He's getting hit late. He's involved in a lot of these collisions, and it is sometimes he's dusting himself down to go up and take kicks. So maybe there's a time to do that if he is involved in heavy collisions, pre-try or pre-penalty.
And Murray also has been taking kicks at various stages.
He takes a shot at goal, but.
It's not wild to suggest. Like, it really isn't that wild to suggest that we have a goal kicker who's really good, who's going to start this next game. We think Cooney has to start the next game.
Yeah, he does. He needs a chance to start the game. I think he was always going to start. I think Italy was the game that there was going to be changes anyway, and maybe Ross Byrne will start, and that the players and the coaches have their mind made up about that anyway. England
obviously picked 3 second rows and had 2 more on the bench. Do we have 5 second rows who can go up against England at that level? Like, is that where the gap is so pronounced that...
It is, yeah, it is. And to have those kind of options and that power, you know, Joe Launchbury is phenomenal in the maul, and Eddie Jones said it afterwards. He's on the field, they score from a maul, his impact that he makes there, and Charlie Ewell's coming off the bench, another big man. So he got criticised for having 5 second rows and he's 23. It's horses for courses. That game was always going to be an attritional game. Yesterday, the weather wasn't bad. It was windy. It wasn't raining, but they went for the power game yesterday, and they do what they do best. And when England overpower you, it's very, very difficult at times to match that. And we're lacking that power. Henderson was a loss, which maybe I've always said this, that I'd love to see Ian Henderson more physical. When he gets kind of angry and up for it, he can be very effective. Even though, you know, Devin Toner was superb in the lineup, they're different types of players, but we don't have that depth and that strength, and that's an issue. But you're not going to get that every day. You're not going to get that power when you play every time England or...
We're going to get it every time we play England for the next decade
or
now.
South Africa.
Yeah, so like that's we need to be able to somehow come up with a game plan and a personnel constellation of players that when we're up against England, this is our team.
I think it's hard to pick out individuals and say, well, this fella should start, that fella should start. But it should be in the psyche now that this is a rebuilding process. All of the best sporting teams who've had continued success over the years have made changes right at the top. You look at Cody with Kilkenny, 2 or 3 changes every year. We probably have failed to do that. We probably did it in Munster when we kind of got to the top. And I think we have to try and get some young blood in there and expose them and say, right, let's give them a shot at it. And if it doesn't work, then maybe the players who are dropped can rebuild themselves again a little bit. It's not the end of the world. Most of these guys have never really been dropped off teams, are top experienced players, and they've been wonderful players for Ireland. There's absolutely no doubt about that. But it's not the end of the world if Conor Murray or Johnny Sexton are starting a game. For them, I think they're big enough characters to respond, and they're still very good players, but they're stuck in a rut now where all the scrutiny, and some of it is fair, some of it is unfair on them. Halfbacks in any game of rugby, if your forwards are getting beaten, it's a very, very difficult situation for them. You're shipping the ball out. But I think we panic. We need to find a way when we're under pressure to actually sit back in the pocket and just do the kick tennis. France did it on Saturday against Wales, which was the difference in them winning the game.
Yeah.
They didn't overplay in their own half, and there was kicks up, kicks back, kicks up, and France just kept thumping it back. And then Wales are the ones who actually said, we're sick of this, we're going to try and play. And France then defended. And that's from a Sean Edwards type kick retreat and defensive system.
I've got to let you go, but Stockdale gets dropped as well after that performance?
He's not doing enough. That's just the reality of it. And the hesitation for the try was just schoolboy stuff. I think he just needs to be better. He is an incredibly talented player who just needs to find more aggression or enthusiasm in his kick chases. And you know, that kind of was summed up with the try. It could happen to anyone. We could all be in that position, but I think he needs to do more.
All right, good stuff, Alan.